Right now, a manhunt underway for an escaped prisoner. This is a special extended coverage on 5 News Plus. I'm Darren Bobb. Grant Hardin slipped away from the North Central Unit in Calico Rock, Arkansas on Sunday, and we have just learned new details about how he escaped. Investigators believe that Harden was let out by a corrections officer that was operating a security gate there. He was disguised as a corrections officer when that happened. Prosecutors have also filed a new charge against Harden related to that escape. Take a good look at his picture. He has been evading capture now for 3 days. 5 News staying in touch with the Arkansas Department of Corrections. The communications director telling us there are multiple law enforcement agencies looking for Harden as we speak. Police gave us the picture on the right side of your screen. They say this is how he was able to escape that North Central Unit in Calico Rock. We're told the photo was taken during his escape on Sunday. Police say the clothes he's wearing look similar to what law enforcement officials would wear. As to how he was able to escape, they say he went through a sally port. Now, a sally port is a controlled entryway typically used in corrections facilities like the North Central Jail, but they are known to be used in other high security settings. Investigators are now trying to figure out how exactly he was able to get the makeshift uniform and get through that sally port. Now, 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer live in Calico Rock where search efforts continue. And so right now, Lauren, what does it look like out there?
Yeah, this is a similar scene to what roads across Izard County look like. State police, they're making sure that they know everyone that's coming into the county and leaving the county. This is the main street here in Calico Rock, and you can take it all the way to Little Rock. So state police tell me it's a pretty busy road. They're set up here checking cars, asking questions, checking trunks, and trying to find any information on what some people know this man as the Devil in the Ozarks. What a name he's made for himself. Grant Hardin has now been on the run for over 48 hours, and we've just learned he's now facing charges in Izard County for escaping. Rand Champion with ADC told us this morning that Hardin has still not been found. He says there's a number of law enforcement agencies involved in the active search. We know that crews have been working through rainy conditions these past few days. These efforts include checkpoints, searches with drones, as well as canine units. Calico Rock is a small fishing town with a population just under 2,000 people. We spoke with Champion on Monday, who says the terrain of the area can make things challenging, especially with the steady rain we've been seeing for the past few days.
It adds a different challenge for sure than a regular inmate. Again, this is somebody who has that training, has that specialized understanding of, the different tactics that are being used and, even the way that they talk to each other,
Kind of what Rand Champion was talking about. He does have background as an officer, so he said that could make things a little bit challenging. Anyone who knows any information about Hardin is still encouraged to contact law enforcement. For now, I'm going to send it back to you, Darren.
All right, Lauren, thanks. Now, one of the first things you might be wondering, who is Grant Hardin? Well, we've been digging into his history for you, and you need to know that he is considered extremely dangerous. He has ties to Northwest Arkansas, as we have been reporting, so police warn that if you do see him, do not approach him. Instead, call your local police department. All right, so now let's talk about why Harden is in a prisoner at the North Central Unit. He was sent there in 2017, convicted of first-degree murder and rape to serve a 30-year prison term. Harden pled guilty to shooting and killing 59-year-old James Appleton in 2017. He admitted to pulling his vehicle up alongside Appleton's, then shooting Appleton through his vehicle window. He never did say why he did this. And then, after going to prison for Appleton's murder, a DNA profile link matched Harden to the unsolved rape of a Rogers teacher. This crime leading prosecutors to stress just how violent Harden is, at the time saying, quote, he is a very dangerous individual. Police say Harden raped his victim in 1997. Rogers police said the victim was in her classroom when he raped her twice at gunpoint. What is especially shocking is there were 250 people in that building attending a church service in the school cafeteria. Harden got 50 years, 25 for each time he raped the victim. Police say Harden did not know the victim. This was a stranger attacking another stranger. Now, the news of Harden's escape can be especially hard on those directly affected by his violent crimes. Tonight, 5 News reporter Kayla Davis reached out to the murdered victim's family. Kayla, it is a very scary time for them.
Absolutely. This is really hard for their family. Mayor Tillman says while they'll never truly heal, the news of his escape has sent her and her family back to the very beginning of their healing process after 8 years of healing. So while they're anxiously waiting for law enforcement to catch Harden, she says she still has many unanswered questions about this entire ordeal. Cheryl Tillman says her phone kept ringing Sunday evening. When she finally answered,
it just seemed like my heart just quit beating.
The Arkansas Department of Corrections told her Grant Hardin, the murderer of her brother James Appleton, had escaped from prison. Hardin shot Appleton back in 2017 after pulling up beside him in Garfield and shooting him through the car window. Now that Hardin is out, Tillman says she's fearful he'll come back for more.
I'm scared for everybody. You know, especially myself, my sister, my husband, you know, they all work together. You know, we were on that council that fired him.
Tillman recalls erratic behavior from Harden back then.
He was very angry. He would chase people for no reason. He pulled a gun on somebody out on the ridge out there, and shouldn't have never happened. He ran a kid off the road and wrecked his car. Shouldn't have never happened. So he's just an evil man.
She says she can't wrap her mind around how someone so dangerous could have escaped.
Somebody at that prison wasn't doing their job. Somebody failed our system.
And it shouldn't have been that.
It shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have never happened.
Tillman asked that the community stay vigilant until law enforcement brings Harden back into custody. Back to you, Darren.
All right, Kayla, thanks. Residents near the North Central unit are on high alert right now. Law enforcement swarming the Calico Rock area, hoping to nab Harden very soon. The longer he is at large, they say, the wider the search area will be. 5 News talks to one resident and business owner who says he's grateful that nowadays we have things like social media to keep residents in the know. Logan Barnes also finds solace in knowing law enforcement is posting up throughout the area.
It lets me know that they're on the case. They're not giving up. And I mean, heck, I've gone through the checkpoints twice now, once in the morning and then once at night. And you know, I've ran into the same guy twice, so I know they've got to be give out. I know that they're putting everything that they got into it, and they're not going to give up. So I know that they'll find him for sure.
Barnes has lived in the Calico Rock area for 7 years and says he's always felt secure.
Just, you ever hear, you know, Mayberry, Andy Griffith's show? That's what it's like. That's what it's like. It's like Mayberry here. You know, everybody helps each other out. But it's just wonderful.
This escape has also Benton County residents on high alert. We're told that Harden has personal connections to the Benton County area, specifically in Pea Ridge. Pea Ridge police officers are on the lookout and say there are many indications as of now that Harden is in or near this area, but they are stepping up patrols and maintaining what they call a heightened state of awareness. The search for Harden has not been an easy one for police. The weather and the general terrain, not to mention Harden's history and law enforcement, are making this search very, very unique. Officers say the Calico Rock area is very diverse. There are rivers, there are forests, there's farms, a lot of hills and cliffs. Those can be hard to get around on their own, but add the rain and the efforts become even more challenging. Officers are also pointing out that Harden may have a tactical advantage. He is a former police officer, so he has firsthand knowledge about law enforcement tactics and procedures. One of the details that makes this escape especially alarming is Harden's history as a law enforcement official. At one time, he was in charge of protecting citizens, but even during that time, those he worked with saw a lot of red flags, including Eureka Springs former police chief Earl Hyatt.
He didn't need to be a police officer at all. So he, matter of fact, I was going to terminate him, but he resigned, and he was caught lying on a police report.
That's a pretty big deal.
It's a real big deal. If you're not an honest person, you cannot be a police officer.
Chief Hyatt says he saw red flags when working with Hardin. One example he gave was a time when Hardin went to Berryville while on duty and allegedly broke into his ex-girlfriend's apartment and vandalized it. In that case, Hyatt said nothing was done, but that wasn't the only thing that caught his attention.
Grant had pulled some pretty wild things as a police officer. Notably, he had gone the wrong way on a narrow, windy one-way road and had a head-on collision with two elderly ladies.
Hyatt also said that even as an officer, Hardin was a violent person who used excessive force. In fact, he told us he had plans to terminate Hardin from the Eureka Springs Police Department for lying on that police report, but he eventually resigned. So what exactly is Hardin's employment history as a police officer? Here's what we have found out so far, and we'll start at the beginning of his career. He first started in law enforcement in 1990 at the Fayetteville Police Department, and according to the department, was there for about 9 months. They list him as being terminated. After that, he went on to work at Huntsville PD. We called Huntsville, and Chief Todd Thomas confirmed Hardin's time with the department, dating it to 1991. Hardin's time there also didn't last long, not even a year. Chief Thomas says Hardin left for personal reasons. Then it was on to Eureka Springs, and we just mentioned Hardin resigned from his position in Eureka Springs in 1996 before he was fired. Despite his work history up to this point, he was still able to step right into the chief police role in Gateway, Arkansas, maintaining that position for nearly 10 years. His final role was as a corrections officer at the Northwest Arkansas Community Center in Fayetteville, where he worked at that all-female facility for only a short few months before being arrested for murder. Now let's take a deeper look at his time behind bars. We wanted to know if Hardin has any troubling records since being in prison. Up until his escape, he doesn't have any disciplinary violations on his inmate record. His Arkansas Department of Corrections records show he completed anger management in 2019, then got his food handler certification just this year. Those are both considered programs of achievement. Well, the Arkansas State Police Department also not searching for Hardin on its own. We're told several agencies are helping out. They include the Arkansas Department of Corrections, the U.S. Marshal's Office, several local Arkansas sheriff's offices and police departments, even Game and Fish. Road checks are out, especially on roads going in and out of Izard County and the neighboring Stone County. When it's not raining, search crews able to use canines, drones, and helicopters in these search efforts. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi made the trip to Calico Rock and shares the initial search efforts and what's yet to come.
Brand Champion with ADC says search efforts Monday focus mainly in the area near the prison.
We have a canine team that's here at this area. We have a lot of different agencies that are from this area that know it a little bit better. We're hoping that plays into our favor.
What was supposed to be a busy Memorial Day for Main Street Calico Rock instead used as a major checkpoint for police.
As far as our businesses being closed, I understand that the other businesses that are normally open were closed because of that, because of the breakout.
Lori Lane works for a local antique shop in the city and says the heavy police presence eases her mind.
It's a little disconcerting, but very rural area. I would have expected somebody would be hiding out in woods, not coming into town.
As the search continues, the Department of Corrections now looking into how Hardin was able to escape.
We've been doing a very meticulous review of all the surveillance footage inside, trying to put together a timeline, trying to even backtrack, a few days, a few weeks, just leading up to see if there's anything that could kind of give some insight into what's going on. But yeah, it's a very thorough investigation right now.
That was Jacob Luthi reporting. Now, police say they personally reached out to Hardin's immediate family and the families of the victims to let them know of his escape. One sheriff tells us that Hardin could be desperate, especially given the recent weather conditions. They say they worry he could break into somebody's house, steal a vehicle, even get his hands on weapons. Given the escape, officers say Harden could be looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars when he is recaptured. So let's go back out now to 5 News reporter Kayla Davis in Gateway. And Kayla, we were just talking earlier about the victims' families and what they are going through right now. But you also have some new information on the law enforcement effort. What can you tell us there?
Yeah, that's right, Darren. Mayor Tillman told me earlier today she's especially worried for her family because her and her sister sat on the city councilman group that were originally the ones that fired him as a Gateway police officer. So now that he's been released, they're all on edge. But she tells me that not only has the Benton County Sheriff's Office done a spectacular job, but also Pea Ridge Police on keeping her family in the loop and making sure that this community stays protected. She says that they've been doing more patrols on these roads and also calling in just to make sure they're okay because they haven't yet heard back from the Arkansas Department of Corrections. 5 News also received a previous statement from Pea Ridge Police that reads in part, quote, "Out of an abundance of caution, we have increased patrols in residential areas and near public facilities, and our officers have been briefed and are maintaining a heightened state of awareness." So we're gonna continue to keep you guys updated on how not only this family, but the residents in this area are feeling with the news that Harden has escaped. Back to you, Darren.
Yeah. All right, Kayla, thanks. Good news on the stepped up law enforcement presence. Now, a quick note on staffing at North Central Unit, the prison Harden escaped from. We did check, and right now officials say there are 3 openings in security. They say that the unit tends to have the least amount of vacancies. So let's go back out now to Lauren Spencer and Calico Rock itself. And Lauren, we briefly touched on Harden's law enforcement history a few minutes ago. You have some more insight, though, into his background tonight.
Yeah, Darren, you went through a pretty extensive list of everywhere that Harden's worked, from Eureka Springs to Huntsville to Benton County. He was an officer in a lot of different places, a chief in Gateway. Rand Champion with the Department of Corrections told us on Monday that, this could be somewhat of a challenge because he does have some of that tactical knowledge, even knowing how officers talk to each other. That could be somewhat of a challenge in this search. But I also spoke with the former prosecuting attorney, Nathan Smith in Benton County, who prosecuted Harden in 2017 and 2019 for these crimes. And he told me that it's important to remember that he jumped around to a lot of different departments. He just bounced around to a lot of different areas throughout Northwest Arkansas. It wasn't like he was working 20 years as an investigator in a very prominent large police department. So that's something to think about throughout this whole thing. I also spoke with the former chief in Eureka Springs, Earl Hyatt, and we heard from him earlier, but he emphasized that he should have never been a police officer. He was very violent, he used that excessive force, and Earl Hyatt did not hire him, but he wasn't responsible in firing him. Harden ended up resigning, but he was going to fire him if he didn't end up resigning. Right. Both of them told me that they have no doubt that all law enforcement agencies are working very, very, very hard in this search, and they will find Harden. So, Darren, back to you guys.
All right, Lauren, thanks. Appreciate that. And of course, Lauren is going to stay in Calico Rock tonight, staying on top of that search. Now, let's pinpoint that most important information that you need to know about this prison escape. Grant Hardin escaped from that North Central unit in Calico Rock on Sunday. He is considered a very violent person, convicted of murder and rape in Benton County. He does have family and other personal connections to Northwest Arkansas, specifically in Benton County. Law enforcement is on heightened alert, as you heard Kayla say, and they say if you do see him, do not approach him. Instead, call 911 or your local police department. All right, you've been watching a 5 News Plus special. Thank you for joining us on our free 5 News streaming app. Be sure to watch 5 News at 10 o'clock tonight for the most up-to-date information on the search for Harden. We will see you tonight at 10. Have a good evening.